Thank you, Ray. Thank you, because exactly that is my experience of not knowing how to talk, what to say in the midst of confusion, suffering, pain. And that's precisely what my topic is today, right-sized care. And at the end, I'm going to be showing a little video, and hopefully all of us would be able to engage with one another. But as Allegra said, my name is Everdith Landra. I'm a Puerto Rican woman, Afro-Latina, Afro-Puerto Rican. I consider myself many times living on the edge of life. And just like my attire, which is, everything is purposeful today, from my first visit to Uganda, Africa, which expresses the exuberance, love, and reality of a beloved community that I met there, and of what I've learned about right-sized care. When I got it made, little did I know that I would become the caretaker and advocate of my dying father at the time, who came from Puerto Rico to the United States for a second opinion on his condition. And it was many of those friends that I met in Africa. I met here in North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Durham, Hickory, Lenore, and in my native Puerto Rico, family and friends that would pray for us, that would visit us, that would encourage us, share their wisdom, and most importantly, their food and companionship. See, when I thought about this dress, I do liturgical dance as well. I designed this dress as a way to dance in it. And at the time, I did not know that I would become fascinated with flowers as well. And people began to give me flowers, and I began to design flowers in my jewelry designs. And this dress had flowers, and I did not realize that the image and the process of a flower would actually become my own experience and the experience of my father, because he himself, like the process of a flower, went down really, really, really low, died in many ways and almost even physically, but his body, soul, and spirit through those experiences bloomed as beautiful as all the flowers that we see. So right-sized caring for me is about the journey that I had with my father when he moved from San Juan, Puerto Rico, September 6, 2009, at the wit's end of his life at the time. Now, this was the first time for him ever leaving his native land, Puerto Rico. He had been a professional baseball player back in his day for the AAA in the Caribbean leagues. And he had traveled a bit, but simply for sports reasons. And this was his first time leaving his land, his people, his language, his family, his friends, to go to a strange new place. He came, as I said before, for a second opinion, and this was an intense emotional and physical experience. My sister, my older sister, who actually dropped out of college to become his caretaker for 8 years, had a child in the midst of all of that and became a single mother and all of these things of life, and she was the one that sort of said, okay, I did all that I could do. Now it's your turn. Let's see what we can do here. He has such a faith and such a strength and such a desire to live that was unlike anything I had seen before. So right-sized care for us was about learning, the learning that comes with opening yourself up to a community that you had never known, literally, with language and literally with everything else that you can imagine. A community that you had never known, with people who shared your beliefs and people who did not share your beliefs. People who could relate to you and people who could not relate to you. People who can speak your language and people who could not understand a lick of what you were saying. So I remember my friends when at the time I had other responsibilities. I was at the time in divinity school, and I was doing a CPE internship and caring for a dying father and working a part-time job and doing all these things. And I had no idea what a caretaker role would be in my life with all those other responsibilities. But thankfully, right-sized care became about more than me carrying the burden alone. I remember my dad telling me in our language, he said, hija, ¿cómo es esto que esta gente no te conocen y hacen todas estas cosas para mí? In English, that means, he said, daughter, how is it that these people who don't even know me are doing these things for me? And it hit me that Dad had at the time not experienced care that was outside of his immediate family and friends. These are total strangers. I mean, it used to be funny. They used to take him to buy food, and my friend, she doesn't know any Spanish. She's like, papi, pollo, chicken? And he's like, yes, chicken. So, you know, they had this way of communicating even with the expressions of their body and the few words that they can both interchange. So when you ask me, Everdith, what is right-sized care about? I say right-sized care is about realizing that we may not be able to take away our loved one's physical, spiritual, or emotional pain. I thought I had to do everything to make my father well. I felt like I was carrying the weight of his condition and healing on my shoulders, although I could never relate to the excruciating pain that he went through. I felt like I had this responsibility to make him well, and I had to do anything to do that. And these overwhelming feelings created guilt and fear of what could have been. There's a lot of questions. What if this could have been with Dad and me? What if this could have been and that could have been? And until then, in our journey of faith, prayer, and community, we received one of the biggest revelations that anyone could ever receive. And that happened through the many ordinary times of talking, opening up, and sharing with people. This is so cool. It was African Americans with Latinos, whites with Latinos and Africans, Latinos from Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Puerto Rico, different peoples from different places in these towns where you would think, oh, wow, you know, this is not a big city. It was people from diverse walks of life who sat with us, who talked with us, who cried with us, who held our hands, and who cooked for us. And some of the cooking was so fabulous that it reminded us of the Latino flavor of our own traditional Puerto Rican cuisine. And I remember my dad himself said, daughter, I saw this commercial on television. And the name of this restaurant is Cuscatleco. And I said, okay, Dad, well, what kind of food they cook there? And he said, well, it's Salvadorian Mexican food, but I think I want to take you out to lunch. And my dad would come out with me. He could barely walk. Sometimes I knew he was in pain because of his facial expressions, but he would come and we would drive up, and he was a gentleman. He wanted to treat his daughter out. He wanted to take me out. Instead, I would come visit him, and he wanted to take me out. And that was the most fabulous experience, because in that little place, and that hole in the wall, actually not too far from where we are today, is right down in Durham, El Cuscatleco. I invited Allegra and Ted, and I said, oh, you guys need to check this place out. It's fabulous. And I said, Cuscatleco. And Allegra, you know, she knows a few words in Spanish, but she could not say that word. And I said, you have to get ugly when you speak another language. How many people speak another language other than English or Spanish? You know, you feel different, right? So I want you guys to help me say Cuscatleco. Oh, gosh, you guys did fabulous. Give yourselves a hand. That's awesome. And so I don't even know what the word means, but the point of the matter was that it was in this place where we shared food, where we shared dignity, where we shared a time of love, and there we smiled. There we healed. There Dad found a sense of dignity where he could treat his daughter, and when my family came from Puerto Rico, he would treat his niece and my older sister, and also my mother, my grandmother when they came to visit. So that summed up right-sized care for us. That summed up our hopes, our faith, our dreams in the circumstances of life, that we knew that we did not know what was going to happen tomorrow. We did not know when Dad was going to have another good day, or when I was going to have a good day, or when the community would even be able to be with us, or we with them. But we knew that right-sized care was simply about opening up our lives through our pain and suffering to the most important reality, which is amor, love. Love, which is simply, it sums up basically in the ordinary things of life. So I remember one of the questions that Ted asked for us to think about. He said, what idea about right-sized care can change the world? That was the way that I phrased that question. And I said, as a spiritual teacher says, that love is the only reality, and it is the most important priority, and that we love and are loved because in our createdness, our Creator loved us first. And so for us, it was in the midst of a strange land, because even for me as a Latina and a Puerto Rican woman, growing up in Harlem and moving to different places, it's really a place away from home. And I really, really learned that when my dad had to come from another country, from his native land, to get another opinion and to have hope in the midst of confusion and in the midst of suffering. So right now, at this point, I have a little presentation, and I want all of you, if you are those that are able, if you could just stand. And this song is, and I present it respectfully, independent of your faith or background. I hope that a message in the song will penetrate your heart and really stay with you. But the song basically talks about smiling, and about smiling in the midst of all hell breaking loose in your life. And that's really what I learned about my father. When I saw him, there were times, there was this one very vivid experience where I was in my living room, because when Daddy came, he did not have health insurance. He did not have the monies for the type of medications that he needed. But people and it was like the universe, everything was on our side. Everything just began to happen immediately, quickly, and all the help he needed was provided for. And in those times, one thing I always will say is that he smiled, and I knew he was in pain. He smiled. So get up, and there's a part in the song, those who are able again, and I'm going to use my friend here as an example. Come on, get up with me. There's a part in the song that says, "You look so much better when you, uh-oh. You look so much better when you, uh-oh." And I want you to get close to your neighbor. You have Allegra, get in there with the people, and everybody should have somebody. And I mean, when there's some pictures of dad, family, friends, and these pictures cannot represent all the people that really have been there for us. These pictures don't do them justice. So I want you to respectfully, you know, and with the comfort zone that you feel comfortable, when that part comes, I want you to just say, "You look so much better when you, uh-oh." Oh, Ted needed to go to the right place. He's a smart man. Okay, so I'm going to step aside, enjoy the pictures, but also enjoy the songs. Move a little, you know, just let your body loose. And it's a funky song, and, you know, just with whoever you choose, and just dance. Oh, I know you got to put the video on. Great, so.
We don't have to do it quite as good as you.
Oh, yes.
Today's a new day.